I come to you at the turn of the tide. Hey, it's Chris, Liege Games. Let's do this. Now, it's been an interesting last week or two. We've seen a lot of higher profile things come out there. We've seen a lot of funding. We have also seen quite a number of cancellations, both funded and unfunded. So really the landscape is changing in terms of what we're seeing from that regard. But let's talk about what is going this week, because there's some very interesting discussion, and I think it's worth talking about. As always, if you saw my stuff from earlier in this week, I was a little surprised. I'm going to be doing a giveaway at some point, so go check that video out. Also, I'm going to be doing a board game tournament, bracket style. And so if that interests you, go check that video out as well, because it's going to be interactive. It's going to be my tournament bracket and viewer tournament bracket going on at the same time. So, hope you like it. A couple other videos out this week. If you want, check them out as well. Top 10 disappointing sequels, as well as a couple reviews / impressions of games that I've had the luxury of being able to look at. Things like Mythwind, as well as my Should You Back for Lords of Ragnarok and Levon Rising. So, without ado, let's ado. So, let's talk about the elephant in the room, right? Marvel Dice Throne by Roxley. Interestingly enough, if you checked out my video last week from this past Saturday about the upcoming ones, including this, whoever that mystery poster leaker was on BoardGame Geek had it nailed, all 8 of them correctly. So I'm not sure where that information came from, but it was spot on. Now, this is generating a lot of conversation, both positive and negative. And let me be very clear. Anything that is promoting the board game hobby like this is overwhelmingly going to be positive in my eyes, period. It is going to attract more people. It is going to put more eyes. It is going to help bring more to the hobby. And anything that does that, I am not going to disparage within reason. Now, again, the biggest criticism was, why these 8? Well, 7 of the 8 have direct tie-ins from shows and or all of the biggest movies, so no shocker there. The only real surprise was Miles Morales, which is probably my favorite one of all of these. Now, if you're not familiar with Dice Throne, I mean, this is assigned powers to Dice Yahtzee, if you will, that you battle back and forth. It plays, I'm not sure if it actually plays solo or not in this, no, 2 to 6. And for me personally, when I had Season 2, I got the Battle Chest of Season 2. So I'm saying this now as someone who has played this and has had it to the table. It just didn't do it for me. It was lacking something. I like a little bit more dynamic or perfect information even in my 2-player games. And at the same time, I know why people love it as well. It just wasn't for me. And that's the tricky part is, right now, I want to be part of this. I want to be part of something. I want to be part of the crowd going along with this. And then I'm reminded of my experience with it. It just wasn't my ilk. But that being said, it is a lot of other people's ilk. I think the biggest problem I had with it was relatively more straightforward. Because I would like a little bit more nuance. If I want to play something, I want to have some depth to it with BattleCon or Exceed in a 2-player game. And you guys know me by now. I love me a dice chucker. So you'd think combination of one-on-one, special abilities, dice would be there. But the interesting thing is, and they say here, I'm going to point this out if I can find it. They have these difficulty levels in terms of the characters. And the interesting thing they say is right here. Here we go. The complexity, 1 die to 6. Now, the interesting thing is none of them are 1 and none of them are 6. And I can't speak to what the previous campaigns are, but all of them vary between 2 and 5. And there's really only 1 2 and there's really only like 1 5, I think. Maybe 2 2s. But even then, most are 3s or 4s, which is fine. But if I want something with a greater tactical or strategic depth, like Exceed, which is going to be one of my favorite games of the year, nay, even in my collection, I want something more along the 5 or 6 end sometimes. I mean, it's nice to start with the 3 or 4, but unless you're going to give me the 5 or 6, it is what it is. There's a whole listing of Marvel Puzzle Quest heroes that I play on the iOS app that could just be incorporated, that people would or would not be quite as aware of, but would be great use from this side of things. But I know why they went with these 8, because they are the most recognizable. They're going to get the most brand recognition. They are going to bring the most people into the game in the first place. And so at the same time, although it does not meet my personal needs, I will not disparage the fact that other people are very happy with this, and I will not rain on their parade, because hey, if this is really good for you, that's awesome, man. Maybe I will be more interested in season 2 of Marvel when they've got some of the more complex ones, when they're going a little bit more deeper in the pocketbook from the Marvel side of things. And you know what? If they do that, that's great. And if they don't, you know what? I have enough other games to play, and I'm still okay, and I'm not going to be bitter about it. And that's the important thing, is don't be bitter at other people's happiness. I mean, the price point is, honestly, it's pretty good. 8 heroes, $84. The battle chest goes for more than that from season 2 at retail now, and you're going to pick it up in the secondary market. It's going to cost you more than that. So I was actually expecting this price point to be a lot higher. That's about it. That's about all you need to know. I would love to see a villain one as well. Loki's kind of the token villain, which, he's kind of more of an anti-hero, not even a villain at this point with the latest Marvel TV series. So it is what it is. I mean, Roxley makes a premium product. There's going to be no question about the quality, the storage of this stuff. I've had the Battle Chest Season 2. It's working very well from that side of things. It's absolutely fantastic from that element. And again, I agree with them. Start playing in almost 30 seconds. It's not difficult. I don't see the need for a map, but that's just me personally. Again, I can see this being for a broad base. And if I thought I would enjoy it more, I would even think about picking it up for my kids. But again, it's not for me, and that's okay. And it's going to raise a ton more money. If this doesn't break 2 million by the time it's done, I'd be shocked. So all in all, Roxley, great job with this. I'm more interested in your previous game, Radlands, so I'm trying to get a copy of that instead right now. But that's Marvel Dice Throne, and it's doing well. Check it out. Now, next up, we have Resident Evil, the board game. So interesting, they're doing sort of chop order, right? Sort of like Star Wars movies, if you've ever heard the chop order. If you don't, go Google it for the prequels. 2, 3, 1. So that's essentially what they've done with Resident Evil now. They've gone to the second one, then they went to the third, and now they're coming back to the first. And this is a 1 to 4 player dungeon crawl with some different elements of exploration, of really more strategy rather than the zombie side, shoot 'em up, bang 'em up, just, bludgeon them in that sense. Because they're trying to encapsulate the truth of the game, where it was a survival horror. Emphasis on the survival aspect of things, right? Not just blow 'em up horror, where a lot of other games in that genre have. And again, I mean, this is massive. I was not expecting them to get this much. But that shows how much people believe in the Resident Evil side of things. Video game IP crossover. I've mentioned that plenty of times. And it shows, honestly, what it shows me is an increased belief in what SFG, Steamforged Games, is doing compared to 3 or 4 years ago. Of that, people have seen Monster Hunter, they've seen Bardsung, and they've been more pleased with the recent changes in feedback that they have had in this regard. And, I mean, I've seen this online, people really kind of like this Resident Evil game system of how it differs from other dungeon crawls. It's 1 to 4 player, some big quotes. Are these links to videos too? Nope, just quotes. And it's going to be actually, I believe, more all in than the previous one, because they've said actually that one of these expansions, I saw it, I'm a part of the Facebook group just to get some more information on it for you guys, that one of these expansions is going to be much bigger than like the previous Resident Evil 3 one. So that's actually the reason for the cost increase, but you're still talking $300, right? We're still talking, as I mentioned, with several of these other games that have launched, Chronicles of Drunagor, Primal, even Wild Ascent, Levon Rising that I talked about earlier this week. It's a lifestyle game at this point. If you're going to pay $300 before shipping, it's going to be more of a lifestyle. You better get, 20 or 30 plays out of it. You better hit your table a ton. And if it doesn't, I mean, that's fine. But that's the price point where I start thinking, okay, am I better off getting something else? I mean, I think of the Cthulhu Death May Die, if you will, to use that as the other extreme of my only horror game that I like. And that was what, 150 on Kickstarter? And this is double that. And is it going to be twice as good as Cthulhu Death May Die? Now, again, they do a lot of things different. Cthulhu Death May Die is a completely different game, so it's not an apples comparison. I won't pretend that it is. You have this open world exploration where, I mean, you're not sure what's going to come up next. And you're going to build the map, which is sort of like, again, what they did with Bardsung, which I love. I love the idea of that, but this IP and the survival horror does nothing for me. Nothing. I don't do survival horror movies. I don't do horror movies. I don't do horror video games. So I actually have a very easy time passing on this because of that, because the theme just does nothing for me. And if, you know, the mechanics can be done in a different way, in a different theme, I would be looking at it in the future. But, you know, it's one of those games where if somebody else has it, I am all up for playing it, but it's not going to be in my collection. Now, that being said, I heard some skimperings of sort of, you know, component quality with 2 and 3 that was not the best. So hopefully they've eliminated some of that side of things in this iteration. And again, it's a little bit of both, you know, one-shot campaign. Again, yeah, you can't have too many campaigns. You can't have too few campaign games. And there's going to be puzzles as well that I talked about last week that are sort of trying to emulate, again, the Resident Evil 1, where it's not going to be a one-time puzzle you solve it, you can never replay it. It's going to have some more interaction from that side of things. The danger response, the non-player characters, missions, all of the miniatures. I mean, there's a little bit of everything. Now, again, if you're going to go in these, my advice, contrary to this, is not the core, because Steamforged has shown us that several of their games that have had more of the exclusive stuff have really even not always shown up in their retail shop as much, or that they are actually significantly price marked up. And I mean, again, that's okay, but you need to know that you're probably not going to save a whole lot. Now, the interesting thing is, I'm assuming you can do sort of a per diem here where you can pick and choose a la carte. Going to have some unlocks here? Okay, unlocks. Interesting. Okay, so are they going to be like Monster Hunter where they did sort of the daily unlocks? It looks like that's sort of what they're doing here. Again, it doesn't bother me. I don't look at it from that side of things. Oh, never mind. We got some stretch goals here in terms of money too. So maybe they're going to have a little bit of both. Okay, and yep, here's the a la carte sort of thing. So you can get a little bit of everything. Now, again, if you're going to get stuff, I would definitely get the Kickstarter exclusive stuff. Anything that's marked Kickstarter exclusive is probably worth getting, except for maybe like if you don't want like mats and that terrain side of things and extra monsters, which again is okay. I guess, you know, if you want just some of the piecemeal, you can probably get under for that side of things. All the videos that we talked about up there. Someday I'll be big enough for these guys to trust me with a game. Someday. Life goals. Okay, shipping. I mean, shipping's going to be what it's going to be. I mean, again, it's an interesting game. It's an interesting concept. I'm pleasantly surprised that it's doing as well as it is. I did not think, I thought this was going to be like a $300,000-$400,000 in the first day one. So it's doing awesome. Resident Evil, if you're a fan, check it out. Next up, Power Plants from Kids Table Board Games. Almost funded right now, almost at 100% at the time of me filming this, where you have these plants and you're building a garden. It reminds me very much, in the comparison one of you guys made in the comment section was Verdant, but just in a different way, because it's more area control as opposed to just laying them down and activating. Now, the interesting thing, and the quote that they chose here from Rado, was that, you know, and I saw Rado's quote, I think on Twitter it was, that, you know, a meaty kids game. So something you can play with your kids, but something that may translate as well from the adult side of things. And I believe I may have a copy coming my way to try it out, to let you guys know a little bit more of my personal feelings on it. As it says here, you're crafty enough with your gardening, your sprites are going to grow patches for you, and you need to be the best one from that side of things. Let's see. Okay. So, non-deluxe versions sold at retail will not include anything marked with Kickstarter exclusive. So the UV, but it looks like the wooden patch tiles are going to be there. So it's going to have a lot of wood at retail. So I can't imagine the price at retail would be a lot lower if it's going to use a lot of wooden pieces regardless. Trays, bonus patch, and bonus plant card. Okay, so they're going to have other stretch goals maybe with deluxe edition too. Oh, nope, never mind. They're going to have punch board. So it is really going to be wooden. So if you want a higher quality component, you're really going to pay for it. And again, how do you feel about that? Some games I'm okay with that. Some games I'm not. And $45 for a deluxe wooden version is not more than I expected, honestly. $28 at retail. I mean, yeah, it's going to be lower end kids cardboard side of things, and I would expect it to be about that. So, neoprene mat, let's see. Okay, funded. We've got a few extra things here, and that's going to be sort of the make it or break it, I think, on this one. Unlike some of those other ones, just because there isn't as much. Now, again, this was sort of like Fall of the Mountain King, where the micro expansions and these mini expansions thrown in sometimes are the difference, which is okay, honestly. And, things like Bullet, which, you can pay for the extra deluxeification. Sometimes I can justify it in my head, sometimes I can't. So it gives you the basic overview of what you're doing. You're choosing a patch from your hand, adding it anywhere, and most patches come with a free sprite, so you're getting a little free sprite there. And then you get to use its power, or you get to grow all the patches next to it and use all of the other powers, except for the one that's the stronger one. So again, it's sort of a choose, if you will, one way or the other. And each field connected wins you big points. And so, I mean, it's sort of an area control, but I guess the question is, it's color dependent, area control with that. So which ones you control and which ones you don't. So I'm interested to try this one hands-on, because I could see myself, especially when I see this, it reminds me a little bit of Cascadia more than Verdant. So if you guys were looking at Verdant, definitely Verdant is not area control like this. Verdant is just laying them out in patterns. And I could see myself honestly going either way, where I like it or it doesn't click with me. But I think it's doing something slightly different, sort of a combination of Verdant and Cascadia, if you will. So we'll see what happens here. Again, a bunch of quotes, a bunch of videos. Shipping is going to be what it's going to be. I mean, all in all, it's probably about where I would expect it to be in terms of price point. I'm a little bit surprised it's a little bit lower funding, but I mean, again, going up against these two this week, and also Senjutsu, which is still stealing a lot of thunder, I'm also not surprised that it is going a little bit slower. So we'll see what happens and where it goes. It's Power Plants. Check it out. So next up, and this is very interesting because I didn't actually plan it this way with my video earlier in the week of my disappointing sequels, but I will say that Resident Evil and now Hanamikoji both have to live up to their predecessors, because I mean, again, Resident Evil is well thought of, but so is Hanamikoji as one of the best two-player dueling type games, just card driven with some bluffing and some tactics. And so to have it up as an expansion, but now interestingly, they're also offering, I believe, new modules for the base game as well, like 1 through 7. So again, as someone who unfortunately, mistakenly has never played Hanamikoji, I need to get my hands on a copy. So that's my mission now, because I have no idea whether or not I would like this, because a couple of the reviews written down below that I've read through and sort of linked to in the Board Game Geek side of things said that they still preferred Hanamikoji, although Hanamikoji Geisha's Road is a little bit deeper. It gives it a little bit more breadth, whatever that means, another layer of complexity. Not that I think, again, some of these games don't need that. I mean, it's elegant in its simplicity, sometimes, like I mentioned in the other video, and that's the whole purpose. People love it in the first place, and you weigh that down with too many other mechanics, you risk dragging it to the bottom of the sea, metaphorically speaking. So that's sort of why we're here. And this is different because you're going to be moving these geishas around from tea house to tea house here, so there's going to be more of an actual physical presence you can see in moving them between and then choosing their actions. You are trying to obtain the most friendly patrons for these geisha. And again, this is sort of up my ilk. Now, I don't know if my wife would like this. That would be the big question. Implicit intentions, veiled messages, and hidden actions. I mean, that's kind of like that. If you've ever seen the end of my last couple videos from this past week, throwing a little Easter eggs in there. Anyway, so I promise no board game covers will fall on me this one. And what you're doing is you're just trying to get prestige by accruing enough patronage, like I said, at the tea houses and the graduation ceremonies to inherit it. So I guess the question is, when I see this, I know I can get Hanamikoji for less than what they're offering it here. But the thing I don't know yet, and I haven't looked at this page fully, is you can see, okay, $19. Okay, sure, whatever. Geisha's Road, $22. Okay. Very reasonable. The collector's bundle, again, the collector's bookcase plus each copy. Now here is the everything. Here's those action tile expansions that I was talking about. And then here is everything, including a couple other games of Shadows in Kyoto, which I played. I wasn't really a big fan of it. But Anyway, Hanamikoji, better rated overall anyway. But the question is, can I, as we were just talking about in Resident Evil, can I a la carte just the action tiles and maybe like just Geisha's Road if I wanted to, or just the action tiles? And that would be the question. Like, if you just have Hanamikoji, would it be worth it for you just to get the other? So, got some videos here. It tells you exactly how to play. I'm not going to run through this. It shows you exactly where you're going to be going around, using these numbers, using these actions. I mean, and it's really an interesting, and this is where the other mechanic that they did not get rid of, but utilizing in a different way, as people that do not like Hanamikoji, the original, were not a fan of this. It's, you know, I cut, you choose. So this is what it is. I mean, you play 3 cards, they choose one, you play the other 2. And if you don't like that, and you don't like having complete control, then again, yeah, you're probably not going to like this game. But it's simplistic enough, and it's got a good enough nature, and it plays quickly enough that you could definitely make a good use of it. And it's not going to be overhead-wise difficult, and it's not going to be too complex if you just want to bust it out at any night, anywhere you want. And again, it just looks interesting from that side of things. So I'm going to have to probably watch some of these videos. You can already see I have it saved, that I need to know whether or not I want this, whether I want the original, and whether or not I can get a copy of just the other expansion tiles. Let's see. New mini expansions, 4 action tiles for both players. That's a good photo. I wish I could do thumbnails for YouTube that well. Man, I am just not good at that side of things. You guys know that by now. Pledge levels and add-ons. Okay, wow. Okay, so those action tiles are going to cost you $25 for the 7 of them. That is more than I would have expected, but I guess they're going to make you pay for it, right? You're almost better off getting the complete collectors, right? 25, 22, and 20. So yeah, I mean, you'll definitely save money if you don't have anything, like if you get this everything Hanamikoji. But the question is, again, do you need both? Do you need both in your collection? Is one going to suffice? Are you going to like one better than the other? And is one going to just completely overshadow the other one? And I'm not saying that in a bad way or a good way, but that's what often happens with these games and these sequels and these similar mechanism type situations. So all in all, though, I'm really happy that they're offering it as just a separate, and they're not pledge locking it behind stuff. So I think that's really cool. Promo cards, mini expansions, guests. So if you want it, you're probably better off, if they're going to be adding this stuff as free stuff, of getting it during the campaign. So looks like it's going to do great. Again, it's not going to be for everybody, but it's definitely up my ilk, so I will be checking out videos, and I will also be checking out rulebooks and reviews of the original. So Hanamikoji, Geisha's Road, check it out. You know me, I'm going a sucker for this type of stuff. So Clash of the Yokai, folklore Japanese card battle game. I have no clue. I saw it. I just needed to talk about it. So yeah, I mean, if you're not familiar with yokai, supernatural entities, and Japanese folklore. 2 to 4 player card game, 36 cards total. Deal all the cards face down. I thought it said face up for a second when I was reading. I was like, whoa, that's an interesting mechanism. You can see the top card only, and you start reading stuff out loud. Okay. Interesting. More like a war-ish game, if you will. And then a whole bunch of other stuff. Yeah. Interesting aesthetic. Kind of cool. Check it out. Catapult Castle, 1 to 4 player dexterity. Now, the rumor was that this is going to be very much like Coconuts, and it kind of does look like Coconuts. $25. Stretch goals, unlocking things. Okay, let's see what we got here. Yeah, I mean, I guess that would be the interesting thing, is do any of these videos talk about how it's different than Coconuts? That would be the one thing, because it looks like it to me from that side of things. And I don't mind this, actually, as a stretch goal. Discounting the shipping on the higher funded amounts. I think that's actually kind of cool, to be honest with you. I wish some of the bigger projects would do that. They won't, but I wish they would, because that's nice from that side of things. So, I mean, you're shooting little catapults into little towers. So, there you go. Dexterity game. Check it out. Damnation. I'm not saying it. This is family-friendly channel. Gothic game. 10 times its funding goal. This was the big mystery one from last week. This is a relaunch from 2018 because of the PvE, but also PvP side of things, where you're in this house, this vampiric death trap, essentially, where the house is trying to kill you, and you're also trying to off each other. And last one standing wins, but as you eliminate each other, then the house ramps up what they're doing. And just the question of, was that going to appeal to people from both those elements? Because honestly, nowadays, I have no idea with some of these things. You know, some of these things people are all over, and then other ones, for no reason, people are avoiding. Choose your villain. Each has different talents and abilities. Draw 3 heirlooms, or your starting, items, essentially, if you will. Again, like I mentioned, you're just exploring, rolling, and using to find more relics and talents to be able to survive. 40 pounds here, 55 bucks. Again, not bad. It means standee game, if you will. I guess the question is, would you be able to pick this up later? And this doesn't strike me as the game that's going to see wide distribution side of things. And again, no offense to the game, but like, it's one of those where it's more of a truly an indie game. And if you want to get it, you just might need to get it here. I mean, it's a little bit too dark for me, to be honest with you, says someone who has Bloodborne, the miniature game. Anyway, but you know what I mean. But I mean, it's cool. It's definitely one that I would want to see in action, and I would want to play first from that side of things. You can play as Dracula even. That's pretty nifty. And when you're out, Final Survivor, yep. So, okay, so you're doing other things once the first player is slain to keep everyone engaged. I mean, that's the big question with these take-that games and these player elimination games. And these are the cards that sort of brew a rule that make the game deadlier that I was talking about. So now all weapons deal 10 damage. So it's just like insta-kill, one-hit kill, essentially. It goes through some of the villains that you're going to be seeing here and sort of what you will see each turn. Yeah. Again, I can see why it's funded. People like this side of things. There's a lot of information here. There's a lot of other stuff that you can get as well. Let's check the price point as well for the other stuff. That's expensive. That's okay. It's expensive. Don't want to bust, but that's okay. Overall, I mean, again, it's doing well. Check it out. Gothic game. Monsdrawsity, finally up. Shut up and sit down, collaboration, unusual suspects. You're drawing monsters based on other people's descriptions. This is a party game. And again, if it's up your ilk, you're probably all over this. If you're not, it's probably not going to appeal to you. This has no interest to me whatsoever. And I can say that, and it's okay. Again, I'm not like raining on other people's parade, but I think it's an interesting concept from a different side of a party game thing. And it's not for me. And I'm okay with that. $29 is going to get you this expansion and everything else. Wow, there's a lot of stuff for that. Holy cow. There's that much stuff for this game? Wowzers. Okay, I guess there you go. All the individual base games and expansions. That's a lot of stuff. I never would have guessed. And they're offering a bunch of Shut Up and Sit Down merch too. So, kind of cool. There you go. I mean, it's funded. Check it out. Next up, Kinghill. And I sent a message. Peter and I have been messaging back and forth, and I just did not have time. And this one was of a player count. Again, a 2-player worker placement as one of the main aspects with a little bit of engine building and card battling. I just couldn't give it the focus and the expertise. It just was outside of my comfort zone from that side of things. So I just said, hey, man, I can't do it. And he was super polite and super nice. And again, this was one where I go, okay, hopefully this one continues to fund, because again, this is one of those indies that could really use the support as well. It's over 50% of the way. It's only been out for like a little over 24 hours, so we'll kind of see where this goes. Again, it's different from those aspects. So if you're looking for something different, I mean, we always look on crowdfunding. We always say like, oh, well, I'm getting another of the same thing. I mean, tried and true is good, but also difference is, worth supporting as well. 1 to 2 players, like I mentioned. You got to be aware of that. And again, you got to like worker placement too, I think. It's a fair amount going on there. And I think I looked at it and I said, you know what? This is probably a little bit too deep for me right now. I am okay with this. Again, this is probably one that I think could be very exciting. I think this is potentially like a dark horse game where it's going to go under the radar and then could be like After the Empire. It reminds me of After the Empire, I guess, of games that have come out and all of a sudden someone big gives a big review of it and then it's unobtainable. So Kinghill, okay. Game board, player sheets. I mean, again, $50 price point. It is what it is. I'm not surprised by that. It's about what I would have expected. Lots of little stuff that you're going to be getting there. And yeah, I mean, it's a 1 to 2 player Euro battling take that interactive game. And again, the question always is with these hybrid mechanism type games, how much hybrid are you going to find in terms of interest from a gamer side of things? Because there's a lot of gamers that like the two-player dueling games. There's a lot of players that like the pure worker placement games. How many of them are there that have an overlap between the two? You're specializing your workers, you're unlocking stuff, you're upgrading stuff, you've got a lot of cards that you're going to be able to play and utilize. Again, I mean, if this one doesn't fund, the question is just why, and the answer is I don't know. Don't know. I think it's priced appropriately. I think there's enough information out there. It's unique enough. It looks high quality enough. So, yeah. We'll see where it goes, but that's Kinghill. Check it out. Now we have Skulls of Sedlec, the expansion collection. I have no idea what this is. I think I vaguely remember this base game of coming out like a year or two ago, maybe? I don't know. Basically, you're a bone collector and you're trying to make the best stack of skulls. So, I mean, 2 to 3 player game, which is an odd player count, 2 to 3, now that I talk about it. Expansions making 1 to 4, that's interesting. And, yeah. You have champions here, zealots, and merchants. Again, I don't know much about this, but these are by the same people that did the Tussie Mussy expansion, which is very well thought of. So, as these small pocket games, if you're interested in them, this is definitely one that you should be checking out because it doesn't get a reprint and fund with $33,000 on the first day and a half or day or so without being well thought of from that side of things. Now, again, how much are people getting some of the other stuff? But I mean, look at all the stuff you're getting even for the $35 price point there. Now, again, do you need that much? Are you ever going to play with that many expansions? Probably not. You're probably best off with the $10 one, but that's okay. Yeah, you're best off with the $10 one. I would be. That's where I would be. Again, trying to make different formations. Promo cards, additional copies. Yeah. All in all, solid solo as well as now 2, 3, and 4 player game. Check it out. Now we have a game called Inns and Outcasts, The Wobbling Wagon, and this is going to be a published version. So I'm assuming there was like a print and play or a game crafter or something like that before. So let's see what they've got here. How are you playing? Choose a card, reveal your initiative, and grab your gold. Okay. Different thresholds for when the game ends. And you can check out a little bit of action on their own channel or their Twitch channel. Okay, let's check out what we got going on here, though. Okay, print and play, regular customer, honored guest, a little bit of more stuff, a little bit of everything, including art, some stretch goals. Okay, I need a little bit more on the page of what's going on. I mean, this is great that it's easy to play, but, I mean, what does initiative do? Why do I care about initiative? What is important about these cards that I need to know about? What else is there entailing in the game besides these character cards? Is it just head-to-head battle, or is it war? Is it what's on the player mats? I need a little bit more from that side of things. And again, I'm not opposed to going and checking out a video, but also give me something to go off of because there's nothing else here as I scan up and down it twice. It looks interesting. I mean, it could be an interesting premise, but I don't know based on the page. But I would say that's probably the number one thing that's hurting it right now, even though it's already got $3,000. You know, it's, 20% funded. So check it out. Now we have Crossroads in the board game. Sort of flew under the radar. This is apparently a video game. I did not know this. I'm not familiar with this. But it is, again, it's about a quarter, just over almost 30% of the way funded in under 24 hours here. Again, over on GameFound. And you're an innkeeper. So 2 to 4 player, you're running your tavern. Again, so let's check out what you've got going on here. Furnish, hire, and prepare meals. I mean, so you're doing innkeeper-esque stuff. Now you've got meals. You can see recipe cards here, resource cards, some room setup. I'm assuming that's something like that. They're trying. I remember a little bit on the preview. This is one of the ones I think that got mentioned in the GameFound upcoming announcement a couple months ago. They're trying to stay true to the video game, I believe is what they said. Let's see. Exclusive version of the game. Okay. Exclusives, cards, and an exclusive first player marker. So for someone who's never heard of the other property on the PC side of things, I need to be sold on the board game side of things. Okay, you're scoring reputation in 5 different social groups. It's always an interesting split of which one you try and go for and which one seems to work most for you in that sense, because sometimes obviously one will work better in some games and one will be better in another game, and so having to be a little bit more tactical depending on what you have. Prestige points, where you're trying to keep your gold in there. tiles in which you're going to be building furnishings. I guess, where are the, how am I actually doing this? No problem with that. That's what's in the box, the game setup, unboxing. We're going to skip over the rewards here for a second because, whew, 120 euros for an Innkeeper's Edition. What are you getting in that thing? Is this a real kitchen apron? You're getting a real kitchen apron, folks. Things I never thought I'd say on Kickstarter, roundup crowdfunding GameFound videos for $500. Copper mug, the PC game, coasters, but you're getting everything under, okay. I don't know why you would feature that, though, as the featured pledge. So, standard edition pledge is just going to get you the game, 50 euros, which, again, is what it is. Some stretch goals that I'm not going to worry about until it's funded. A few videos, lots of languages. A little bit of everything. How to play. Here we go. Here's the more important crux of the page, which unfortunately, as you can see, is significantly far down on it. So you're buying tiles, and you're going to be laying them down in your inn to sort of map them out. Use the tiles to get your prestige points. Build your inn, cook your meals. Okay, great. Get the tiles you need, steal ingredients, gossip. Each game is different. So they say this is the whole rules here, which honestly is not that long of a rule list at all. And it seems relatively straightforward. You're just buying tiles, placing them down, and doing a couple other things in terms of the tracks and the inside of things and the recipes. So just different actions. So it's not actually as complex as I would think then. And they have the full rules right here too, it looks like. PC to tabletop. Again, they're offering copies of it as well during the campaign. A little bit of everything. I don't know. I mean, it just feels like, to me, it just feels like it's missing something. I don't know what that something is. Recognition from my side of things, because I'm not familiar with it, but it's got 32 days. We'll see. I just don't know how much of a following a game like this has. And I just don't know how many board gamers or what the volume is that's looking for a Stardew Valley type experience-esque rather than a smash 'em, hit 'em up battler side of things. Because we also have lots of other tile laying, action selection, buying games, and what makes this one stand out of the crowd apart from the IP. And I don't see that when I'm looking at it from that side of things. Now, last up, this one didn't just launch, but it's the first time I've ever seen this one. And you guys know me, I love talking about these Japanese-themed games. And so I'm going to mention it right here for the 6 of you that are going to watch this part of the video in the first place. This is a really interesting take, and I think this one really deserves a lot of hype. It's funded, thankfully. I'm not sure about it yet, but I'll tell you why in a second. BoardGame Z&Z, Zombies and Zilches. Now, don't be turned off by this art. Don't be turned off by, the name of it. This appears to be a very, very well thought out, completely unique, different trick-taking game that I've ever seen. Now, again, the trick takers watching this, all 6 of you, or 3 of you now that I've whittled down, can tell me how wrong I am about this being unique. And that's why I'm not sure it's for me. But it's got 52 people. It's got $1,900 raised. This was a game that was sold out in one of the Japanese markets that they do of the expos every year. And the interesting thing is you have these cards that are played. And so as we're looking at this, it's survive, take the least damage, or potentially take the most damage at the end, depending on if you get enough damage. It's a trick-taking game, like I said, but this is the very different side of things as well. 3 to 6. Usually, we're used to trick-taking games as like 2 to 4. They say the optimal is actually 5. And they've improved it with some of the criticisms that they got the first time around in order to make it better and get rid of some of the luck and give more of the skill to the actual trick-taking side of things. It's all in Japanese. It's all in English. There are guides out there, illustrated image guides down further that you can link to. So I'm not going to give you the full details. But the point of this game is, and they make it thematic, you are a zilch, an insignificant being left behind fleeing in order to, survive through all of these different areas. You're in groups in the sense that you must follow, in the sense of the trick-taking, and yet someone's always going to be sacrificed and damaged if you lose the trick, or win the trick, actually. So game ends if you play a number of rounds, or if somebody dies. Again, price point, very good, $21. Shipping ends up being really cheap on these, actually, well. And that's really all you need. You don't need anything. I think you might want some of the sleeves, but I think one of the comments in the comment section, all 14 of them, illustrate that point. Again, you're seeing this, and so what happens is like you discard these cards. One card from the trick that is played, that goes into the discard pile. It comes back alive, and if you match it by having to play one of the cards that follow suits in the following rounds, then you're going to take extra damage, essentially, is what it sounds like. And we don't really see that. That's crazy. And it's thematic as well. So following actually is going to have consequences. Not just some, thematic disconnect in terms of the game and the mechanisms. So, I mean, here you go. You get one from the graveyard, and then it matches up into that, as illustrated by the actual illustration. And so if that happens, then you're going to take extra damage. And they say that, there's going to be less, because there are a few in the deck that do not match, but they're actually decreasing that amount in order to increase the difficulty and, again, increase one of the ways in which it's going to be more strategy as opposed to luck. I think that this is cool. I think this is something completely unique. You guys clamor for all the time for stuff that's unique, stuff that's flying under the radar. I am bringing it to you. Please check this out. I have no affiliation with them, but this is unique as unique comes. And so that's where we need to support. So there you go. Board Z and Z, Zombies and Zilches, the trick-taking game. Check it out. Now, quick update on Lords of Ragnarok. Look at this. Almost €1 million in just over a week. That's pretty incredible. They're doing the daily unlocks, so you're getting more and more each day. Now, why am I actually specifically talking about it right now, if I can actually click on the right thing here? The most interesting thing is the update that just came out today, and I'm putting out a separate video. I'll link it right above here. I read the rules, so you don't have to. So they addressed my biggest criticism last week of the fact that they didn't have a rule book out in that sense. And honestly, this is the stuff I like to see. Now, again, not just the rule book, but a couple of the miniatures that they've said, including Fenrir here, who again, remarkably, and is the most iconic in potentially this whole pantheon. They said, hey, you know what, guys, we're going to take a different spin on it. And this looks so much better. So much better. I am so pumped. Like, I would put a poster of like this on my wall. Maybe not of like shooting a missile, but maybe like minus the missile part. Everything else, that'd be awesome framed on my wall. Like just behind me there. Awaken Realms, make it happen. Maybe not for me, but just make a print of it. And so also, again, with Hell, they're redoing it because people thought it just looked too wonky with too much machinery and too much just stuff. But here is the good stuff. Tabletop simulator access, as well as the rule book, prototype manual work in progress. Now, it's only like 5 pages, but it's really condensed. So I'm going to go through it really quickly and give you my impressions in that other video. And if you just want me to read the rules, and I'm actually going to read the rules on the video, though, so you don't have to worry about that. It's not going to be like me sitting there of 10 minutes of reading the rules, although, would you watch that if I just anyway, so, they want to know your feedback on the Tabletop Simulator mod, but it only works for 3 to 4 players. That's what you need to know. It's only got these 3 gods in it, as well as the monsters from the core box. So there are all the links down here at the bottom. Now, interestingly enough, in the time I filmed this video, you can see Resident Evil is already up to 1.1 from the time I filmed the beginning of this to the end of this. That's massive. They've already eclipsed one of the other Resident Evil campaigns. They're easily going to eclipse the other campaign, and they have almost 2 weeks left. Again, say what you will, there must be some influence from that side of things in terms of what people believe in this side of things from Steamforged. Same thing with Dice Throne. 1.2 million, already up significantly from when I first filmed the beginning of this video. So they are just going up and up and up. And I mean, like I said, it's easily going to break 2 million probably if this keeps up with 11,000 backers from that side of things. And that's without expansions, without stretch goals. That is just purely putting out a product that people want. Take note, other campaigns and publishers. Last up, Senjutsu, which I'm currently backing, which a couple of you linked into the comment section as well of some of the other reviews. And I did a little searching today. I think I'm going to do a whole nother video on this next week. I watched and read through 2 very, very contrasting reviews and thoughts on this game. And what that video is going to be about, that I'm going to be talking about, this comparison essentially in a nutshell, but using this as the prime example, is how you frame things And how you frame things in general on your channel has a big influence on the people who watch it and the type of people and the reaction of people that watch it. And that's really the most interesting part of this. Because there are dynamics. I was reading through mostly of the comment section as well on both of these videos, and just even the reaction on both sides. Such confirmation bias regarding these videos. And that is the most interesting aspect. And the community that you create around your videos and around your channel is a reflection of you. And I think this is a case point in study. But anyway, I thought I'd mention it because it's also killing it with almost $1 million as well at this point in terms of updates. Speaking of a couple last updates, Mythwind is going to be almost at its final 48 hours by the time you guys watch this. Again, my impressions video I'll link above for those that are interested that did not see it the first time around after my hands-on experience with the prototype. So, and that also leads me into another interesting dynamic of video, but I'm not sure this is the right time for that video because that's a much bigger, higher level video and more complicated things than I feel like getting into, but also just a very interesting game. Definitely for some people. Thankfully, I can easily pass on it. Not for me, but it's very solid, and you just need to know about it essentially and make sure you're getting in on something that's a right fit for you. Other updates, quick. Bardwood Grove under $200,000. Again, I think the lack of incentive is hurting this one. I see a lot of people saying I'm going to pick up at retail, and a lot of people just from a Final Frontier game side of things saying I haven't been excited by the previous ones that I've gotten from them, and so I'm just not as enthusiastic to spend, 115 or whatever it was bucks, 79 for the deluxe, 110 for the collectors at this point without more hands-on, which again is reasonable. I like the idea of it. I'm gonna watch some stuff on it. You can see I still have it saved, but I haven't decided one way or the other from that side of ththings. So especially as a Euro game, I'm very, very hesitant. But again, it's one of the few I'm going to give a shot. Paint the Roses, again, almost $250,000 for this little cooperative, hard deduction-based game from North Star Games. And, I mean, it is what it is. This is probably the only thing on my list of things that I'm backing right now that is probably a lock for me. At 2 weeks left to go, almost $250,000. I mean, probably exceeding internal expectations right now anyway. This is my type of game, and I'm completely okay with saying that. Last up, I mean, I wasn't kidding last week when I said all of these things are funding. I mean, these are all 6-digit projects, right? People saying that this is going to bust at some point. Well, it might, deluxifications. But speaking of deluxifications, Steam Up is doing almost, what is that, like 9 times their funding goal right now? So, I mean, that's impressive for something that, again, I look at that and I go, I'm not sure how people are going to respond to that, but clearly people are really impressed by it and they like it and they like that 3D aesthetic. And it's priced for what it is. I mean, again, it's another $80 board game. I mean, and that's the question I guess we have to ask ourselves nowadays. Are we willing to pay literally twice as much? Oh, sorry, Canadian, so $64 game. Are we willing to pay double what we would normally pay at retail for deluxe? For better and for worse. And the community seems split on that. This is another example of that, but it's doing well. So thought I'd just highlight it and show what it's got going on. So there you go. Okay, so that's it. That's the roundup for this week. Now, obviously, there's some big hitters. November is kind of looking, hopefully not as expensive. Although, I'll be honest with you guys, I canceled a lot of pledges this last week. I just found myself saying, I want excellent, and I'm not convinced, and I just want to be sure. And it's weird. It's weird. Just second guessing myself with a lot of these projects, which I don't usually do. But anyway, take that for what it is. Tomorrow's video obviously is the upcoming for next week, which we'll talk about a couple big hitters as well from that side of things. Let's be very clear. There's some real big ones next week from, So, obviously, my video just came out as well, like I mentioned, of the disappointing sequels. I will also be doing a follow-up on that, of the sequels that improved on the first version as well. Obviously, I'm wrong on a lot of these. I'm Always interested to see. Interestingly, no one commented on things like Myth. I was surprised nobody in the comment section gave a couple shout outs to a couple games. But you know what? It's always the interesting way of things go. So, you know, we'll go from there. And, you know, probably a little bit of a video, hopefully at the beginning of the week as well, of the November games to know. I'll be honest, it's a little bit less of slim pickings. People are playing, honestly, like November and December really close to the vest, and I don't think there's a whole lot big name coming out. I mean, there's a few here and there, but not nearly as many to choose from as there have been. So, guess it's good for our wallets around the holiday time. As always, thanks for watching. Thanks for dealing with me. Thanks for putting up with me. Let's get to 5K by 2022. Let's break that barrier. Okay, that's all I got. Have a great day. See you around. Stay classy. All right.